Hey everyone, my name is Alyssa Goodeaux. I'm a connection coach, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Ecclesiastes and wisdom literature and my own personal experiences and why this has always been a thing for me. So, people who've been around a little bit kind of know that I'm into wisdom literature quite a bit. And I tend to talk about Proverbs more than anything else because it's how I fell in love with the wisdom literature, but all of it's just my favorite. I just love these series, and I think that they don't get enough recognition for the part that they play in the canon and what relevancy they might have for us in the present. So my own personal journey with my health has been pretty complicated, and most people do know about it. Um, with with everything that I've gone through in my healing journey, being sick for so many years, it almost killing me more than once, and it just being this whole thing. I've had to do a lot to overcome those things. I've had to be stubborn. I've had to be persistent. I've had to be hopeful. I've had to like fight and claw my way to get back to any resemblance of a life again. And a lot of that was not my own doing. A lot of it was just God being very gracious and merciful on me, and also allowing other people to be supportive of me through Him. And I'm so, so thankful. And I sit back and I think about all the progress that I've made. I've gone through therapy for over a year, and I get to have this beautiful job that I'm in love with, even if it's, like any job, there are aspects that drive me crazy. I get to be around lovely people. I've found so much like self-confidence and self-respect and some kind of self-worth. I mean, just all of these beautiful things. And even through that, I've had even more of a wonderful relationship with my creator because of it. And so sometimes I can find myself sitting back thinking, I don't I don't see any meaning in it. I still feel empty. How am I so joyful and so at peace and also sad? Also more sad. It doesn't really make any sense to me at all. Because if I have more of this goodness and this richness and all these things that people aspire for, wouldn't that mean I'm supposed to be happier and lighter and laugh more and have fun more often? Like, doesn't that mean that they should be synonymous? And I know that this is a complex conversation, so I'm only going to focus on one aspect of it. But I'm sitting here having this internal struggle. And so I decide that I am going to start writing my prayers out. I'm going to start praying to him. And I'm asking him, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel so empty? Before I can even finish writing the sentence, it's like, you don't need anything else, you need me. Okay, fair enough. I study, I do pray, probably not as often as I should. I'm not doing like 3 prayers a day minimum plus all these extra things. I could probably pray more, and I could probably do more study than I do. You know, there's room for improvement always. But it's almost like a weird answer, because it's like, well, I know that I should talk to you and I can talk to you, but what am I going to get at? What good does that do me? And not that, please don't misunderstand me. Of course, it doesn't mean that talking to God is meaningless. It's just, if I'm not actively doing something, what good is it? I'm just sitting here whining about my problems when I should just get up and go do the thing. So I sat back and I started thinking about this beautiful wisdom literature, and I have this favorite series by Tim Mackie, and he's talking about Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is really, of course, it's so dark. If you've ever read it, it's not exactly like the first thing that you want to pick up and study, because it is a little depressing. It's talking about meaninglessness or vanity, depending on what your translation is. And it's just not like, it's not an exciting read the way that some other books might be. And he has a beautiful teaching series on it. You should definitely go watch it. And I just kind of love the way he succinctly puts these things together in these concepts. Because what Ecclesiastes is talking about is how whenever we think of our relationship with God and we can be newer believers, and even some of the most mature believers who've been doing this for a long time don't really realize that they're getting caught up in this cycle until they're having to come face to face with their own inner struggles, right? And so this whole book is talking about how we invite God into our life thinking that our life is going to be better. We're going to get more out of our relationship with Him. We're going to be happier. We're not going to have problems. Everything is going to be solved and amazing and great. And yeah, there are some aspects where this is true. And also, what wisdom literature challenges us to think about is that there are lots of things where bad things happen to good people. And it's not about meaninglessness or vanity. It's more about the fact that it's an enigma, it's a paradox, and it's temporary. Life is temporary. Life is a paradox because we have all these good concepts for what wisdom should be like, right? If you do this, then this. And they make sense for the most part. And yet, life is complicated and complex, and we can't possibly understand it. And what wisdom literature calls us to do is to realize that we were never meant to understand, and we cannot understand. We are human, and we are finite. God is infinite and complex and beautiful. And we were never meant to be on the same level as Him. It's kind of the point. And so what we're really doing is we're kind of living in this self-sufficiency and this pride. And for me, I struggle a lot with pride. And it's gotten so much better over my healing journey, but it's still so sneaky. It's one of those things. It's a lot like the Hametz where we're celebrating unleavened bread right now. Just had Passover, and so we're, this is like that leavening that you're looking for. It's so tiny and insignificant, and it can turn into this big problem where you think, well, I'm not prideful because I am not that person that goes around bragging about how great I am. I'm not that person. And yet, sometimes I am the person who is so stubborn that she won't hear anybody else's opinion or their input into something because I've already decided, no, this is right. And no matter how justified I think I am, that is pride. And there's another flip side to it that we don't really think about with pride is self-deprecation. And this one is a way bigger problem for me, or it used to be. It's not so much anymore. But especially thinking about how, I am not worthy and I am just awful at everything. And, it's just the self-absorption where it's me. My world revolves around me and nobody else is playing a part in the story. This is where pride is so sneaky. And this is why I think I am drawn to the wisdom literature, because I know not everybody struggles with this. And so that's why I kind of have a special relationship with it. But it's ironic that as someone who struggles with this and somebody who feels like she's come on the other side so far, right? And I have. So many improvements have happened. And yet I can still sit here thinking, yeah, but it's meaningless and all these things. It's empty. It feels empty. Instead of inviting God into my life and then thinking, but how could this be? The real story of Scripture in all of scripture is he invites me into his life, his world, his purpose, his calling, and I can choose to accept to step up to the plate and go, yeah, I want to participate. This is his story. And I was never meant to understand why bad things happen to good people and why bad things happen to good people. The opposite. I get confused sometimes saying it out loud. But all of these things play into one another. And I don't have any idea why or how, and I was never meant to. The point of me having a relationship with him is just that. And it doesn't mean that I don't have to play my part. Just because I don't see the impact doesn't mean that it's not still important and that I don't still have a job to do. And so, yes, feelings are always valid, right? We don't get to say that they're invalid because they exist and they're there. Now, like logically, we might want to argue with that and say like, well, you have no right to feel that way. Well, regardless, I feel that way. That makes them valid. Now, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do with it? Well, you deal with it. You process the emotion, you figure out what it is that's bothering you. And for me, in these moments, whenever life feels so small and I'm thinking about, well, I could be doing this, but, instead of whenever I think about, getting myself out of a funk, it's, go buy the organizer for the house and, fix something up, or go buy a new outfit and feel pretty. And, like do art and create things and be part of it. And those things are helpful and good to some extent. And whenever you find yourself coming up empty still, these things are not the solution. The solution is having a relationship with him and seeking him in those things. My solution is to remember that real wisdom starts with fear and awe and humility before a God that I cannot possibly understand and that I was never meant to understand. I hope that in your own journeys, you can realize how important the wisdom literature is in your own life today. Because while there's a lot of scripture that talks about history more than anything, these are specifically pieces that are meant to remind us of what our relationship is like with them. It's not only just what we should and shouldn't do as believers. It's also how that looks like in a dynamic with them in the world practically. It's really beautiful and intricate. And I hope that some of this story can inspire you to also find those aspects in stories. Anyway, please go watch Tim Mackie's series on this. It's just a wonderful, wonderful listen. And think about the people in your life who struggle with meaninglessness. They might have all of these things in their life where they're happy with what they have. They might have a decent job. They don't really have to worry about, and they might have projects and all the things to do, but they feel empty and like there's no meaning. And then reflect on your own life and where this is seeping in. And then ask yourself what you're going to do about it and how you can start feeling that awe and fear of God. So